Moin, ihr wunderbare Menschen des Interwebs. Ich begrüße euch ganz herzlich zurück zu meinem Let's Play von The Great Ace-Attorney Chronicles. Wir sind dabei, unsere Summation Examination zu starten. Und ich bin mal gespannt, wie wir das Blatt wieder wenden können. I'm a man of logic, me, and having considered all the evidence, the defendant must logically be guilty. I do agree that gas is far too expensive. I can quite understand why the man would want to avoid paying. The stuff explodes and it can poison you. It's absolutely lethal gases. Gas doesn't come for free. It costs a fortune to deliver it around the city and maintain the pipes. Truth be told, the tea my wife serves up for me is a little sketchy at times. If nothing else passed the victim's lips that night, there is no other explanation, is there? I do feel that perhaps personal opinion about gas and its supply has influenced decisions somewhat. But never mind. No, you really should mind. The truth is, our counter-argument wasn't as unassailable as we'd hoped. And Mr. Shakespeare was poisoned. There can be no doubt of that. Then how are we supposed to turn this around? I think we need to establish the method by which Mr. Shakespeare was actually poisoned. Our only hope is to demonstrate that to the court incontrovertibly. But that's surely almost impossible at this stage. If we don't manage it though, Mr. Natsume will be found guilty. No delays, counsel. Proceed with the summation examination. Ich und mein Koala sind ready for duty. Okay, dann wir werden hier wieder erstmal alles angreifen. All the evidence, you say? That's right, and there's no room for doubt. It's all pointing at that Japanese man with the big mustache. That's the English man with the bigger mustache. Which means we need to show the man some new evidence to make him change his mind. If only we had that kind of evidence. Don't worry, this summation examination has barely started, really. Perhaps there will be a shift in the situation that shows an existing piece of evidence in a new light. Let's hope so. To start with, though, I need to find some way out of this deadlock. This isn't the time or the place to be discussing the price of gas, madam. But really, think of injustice. Think of the injustice. Air is a gas, and air is free. Why should Aldemort gas cost money? It makes my blood boil. I can feel myself becoming ruthless than ever. This isn't the time or the place to be ruthless either. I might interject here. Yes, madam. It seems my fellow juror takes issue with the price our company charges for gas. But it's precisely because of thieves like this man that the cost goes up. Oh, what a beastly man. That unkempt mustache, those hunched shoulders, poisoning tea and stealing gas, utterly unforgivable. No, Mr. Natsume isn't the one who's been stealing gas. I will thank you not to go adding one more crimes. Mr. Natsume hasn't been poisoning tea either. Well, anyway, I've quite made up my mind. It's as made up as the price of gas. Would we please talk about the poison rather than the gas, do you think, sir? Well, if you like. I mean, to be honest, I would take poison over gas every time. You would take poison? What I mean is, poison can only poison you. It doesn't explode, does it? Goodness me, what are you talking about? Set him straight, please, lawyer man. Well, it's certainly true that poison isn't prone to exploding. But I think you will find poison also can't light or heat up a room. You're right, I hadn't considered that at all. Young lawyer man. Yes? You have a good head on your shoulders. We could use someone like you as our company's legal representative. Well, I wasn't expecting to pick up more business in the middle of a trial, that's for sure. Anyway, the point is I haven't had the best experience with gas companies in the past. Can we please refrain from all this talk of gas? There's an all-out attack underway here, in case you haven't noticed, against my company's gas. And I'm supposed to sit here and take it, am I? I don't think so. It's really buzzing now. All I've heard about our wonderful fuel is explosions and poisonings. What about electricity, What about getting electrocuted? What about that? A little explosion here and there is nothing in comparison. Any explosion could hardly be described as nothing, madam. Nevertheless, the theft of your gas is deplorable. My point exactly, but the gas thieves aren't even the worst of our enemies. We have far more devilish reprobates to contend with on a daily basis, you know? More devilish? Who, madam? Other gas companies, of course. Other gas companies? Not quite what I was expecting. We generate gas and we deliver it to our customers fair and square. Indeed, and nobody is questioning that, madam. Altamont is an exemplary gas company. But there are other unscrupulous gas companies here in London that don't even have any gas at all. What? But if they don't have any gas, how do they go about selling it to people? You wouldn't think it possibly, would you? But they steal our gas, you see, and sell that. They steal your gas? How on earth is such a thing possible? Gas companies like ours deliver gas to people's home via a network of pipes, but these devilish reprobates secretly disconnect our pipes and divert our gas into their own rotten pipes. Then they make a contract with the households supplied by those pipes and take money for the precious gas that's rightfully ours without us even knowing. They are diverting gas into their own pipes illegally? What a brazen form of theft. When we visit customers' houses to collect the money from their meters, we always have to check whether or not one of these devilish companies has been up to its tricks. Do you have something to say about that juror number 3? Oh, golly, you mean me? I'm terrible sorry, I was just thinking to myself. I really did catch him off guard there. Thinking about what the lady next to you was saying, correct? Well, yes. I just got a little rolled about it recently, you see? Go on. An Altamont gas worker visited my house the other day to investigate the pipework. We need to ask for your cooperation while we carry out a secret check of your property, sir, the fellow said. So I let him in, and do you know what he did? I am, afraid I have no idea. Please tell me. He proceeded to take one of my lights off the wall. Then he grabbed the exposed mouth of the pipe and started blowing into it. What do you think you're doing, young man? You're giving away company secrets there. Oh, please, everybody knows. But it was very nearly the death of me, I can tell you. What do you mean? I will explain if you don't mind. As I said before, these unscrupulous other gas companies connect their customers to our pipe network. Yes, but how does blowing into the pipe come into it? Obviously, there's gas in the pipes and it's at a fairly low pressure. By blowing air through the pipe, you can make the pressure drop temporarily. And if you do that, any lights connected to the same pipe will flicker for a moment. I see. In other words, if upon blowing into the pipe, the lights of an adjacent property that has no contract with your company flicker, you can know that these devilish scoundrels have been meddling with the pipes. Exactly, my lord. That's it in a nutshell. It's the reason why we have teams of workers going around neighborhoods to investigate which lights flickers. The trouble is, the particular worker who came to my house didn't know the strength of his own breath. He blew down the pipe with all his might, and you can guess what happened, can't you? Well, if he blew hard, then... Wait, you mean... That's right, the lights didn't just flicker, they went out, along with the stove. Gas started pouring into the house. What a disaster. The gas supply must have been interrupted briefly because the man blew too hard, so the flames went out. I'm afraid I yelled at the fellow. Are you trying to kill us all? I said. So by disconnecting a lamp and blowing into the exposed gas pipe, it's possible to extinguish lamps and stoves connected to the same network of pipes. And then, when the gas starts flowing again, It just silently seeps into the room. Mr. Naruhodo, I think perhaps... Yes, this is almost certainly the clue that we've been hoping for. Juror number 3, the defense requests that you amend your statement to include that information. Oh, well, if you like, I don't mind. Well, I do. That's our company's secret method of identifying the rogues. Like I said, madam, it's widely known already. Very well, juror number 3, you will amend your statement accordingly. Yes, my lord. Although, I'm not really sure what the point of all this is. Blow too hard into gas pipe and you extinguish everything in the house. And then you're in real trouble. Okay. Ich denke mal, dass das noch wichtig ist, aber ich habe keine Idee. Also mit den ersten 2 Juroren kann ich das, glaube ich, nicht clashen. Dann würde ich sagen, kümmern wir uns um die anderen beiden noch. Schauen mal, was die zu sagen haben. You mean it's poisoned? That's right. It's happened a tidy few times now. Oh, ups. Ich wollte nicht zurückdrücken. This is most troubling indeed. It always stays like this one when I don't get any wage. I get in at tea time, see? And I see her doing it, my wife. She gets that devilish look on her face and she slips some white powder into my cup. And do you drink it anyway? I was brought up proper, I was. If someone gives you a cup, you drink it. And what happened to you? What did it taste like? It was god-awful, believe you me. Salty as hell. Then I think perhaps what your wife put in your tea was salt. So, she doesn't even care enough to poison me properly? Unbelievable. Let's move on, please. Okay. Aus ihm bekommen wir leider auch nicht wirklich was Wichtiges heraus. Does it mean that if the victim could be shown to have ingested something else, you'd change your lean? You would change your leaning? Huh? Sorry, what's that now? Oh, I was just saying, if the victim did actually eat or drink something else on the night... What's the matter with you? Sorry? I said if nothing else passed the victim's lips that night, there is no other explanation, is there? Haven't you been listening to me at all? I feel there's an English expression about a pot and a kettle that's appropriate here. Compared to the other jurors, who don't even appear to have anything to say about the case at all. It would seem that this elderly gentleman has been listening to the proceedings far more intently. I suppose the trouble is... he has selective hearing? Exactly, but still, this juror may well be the key to the breakthrough that we so desperately need. This is hopeless. There's no way for me to appeal to these people. I do think that the only way we shall overcome this difficult situation is by exposing the way in which Mr. Shamespeare was really poisoned. We have to prove that it happened some other way, and not via Mr. Natsume's tea. Yes, I know. The trouble is, I have absolutely no idea how it did happen. Mr. Naruhodo, I wonder if perhaps there's something you might have forgotten. Like what? It's important to watch everyone involved and pressure people if they react to something someone else says. If you would like me to remind you exactly what I mean, I would be more than happy to, of course. Once again, Sasaki-san's fate is entirely in my hands here. I probably owe it to my client to hear any advice my assistant may be able to offer. So perhaps I owe to let Susato-san remind me. Then again... Nee, wir wissen, wie das funktioniert. Actually, I don't think there's any need. It's vital that we start trying to change these jurors' minds as soon as possible. Of course, I'm sure you're right. But if you decide you would like your memory refreshed, you need only ask, Mr. Naruhodo. Okay, ich denke, ich werde Juror Nummer 3 und Juror Nummer 6 flashen, weil eine andere Möglichkeit fällt mir gerade nicht ein. Those two statements clearly contradict each other. Good gracious. To whose statement do you refer, counsel? Juror number 6, did you hear what juror number 3 just said? What? Yes, of course. I heard him mumbling about something or other. There is another explanation here, I believe. Something besides Mr. Natsume's tea did, in a manner of speaking, pass the victim's lips on the night in question. What explanation? I wonder, did the police check the mouth of the gas pipe feeding the wall light at the scene to see if there were any traces of poison there? I was curious to see what your floundering would result in this time, but the mouth of a gas pipe? Scotland Yard have enough to do without exploring such irrelevance. What a piece of work is a man! What are you trying to say, Mr. Shakespeare? What speakest thou? Prithee, is it not strange and strange? That is what I say to thee, sir. I thought it would have been quite clear, but let me put it another way. The poison could have been on the mouth of the gas pipe that feeds the wall lamp in your room. And that is how the poison came to enter your body. Good lord. Are they tasty then, gas pipes? Is that what he's saying? Or is the gentleman suggesting that the poor man was so desperately hungry he tried to fill his belly with gas? Perhaps no actress would perform a kiss scene with him. Shame, madam, speaking thy fancy. I assure you, I'm not such a buffoon that I have to kiss pipes. This is no summation examination, this is a farce. The prosecution will not stand for any more of my learned Nepalese friend's conjecture. To begin with, the lamp in the victim's room is high on the wall. In order to have placed his lips to the pipe that feeds it, he would have had to be a contortionist. These are empty assertions. There is no possible proof that the man did as you say. It's true, I have no proof that Mr. Shakespeare put his lips to the pipe. However, I can say with some certainty that on multiple occasions, Mr. Shakespeare has been doing something in front of that lamp on his wall. And I have evidence to prove it. Alright, you've got our attention, lad. I would like to see how you can be so sure of yourself. So would I. Let's see this evidence then. Now that I've got the jury's ear, I need to make this opportunity count. This is the proof that time and time again, Mr. Shakespeare stood in front of this gas lamp. Es müssten die Handprints dann sein. What the? These are, wait, what are they called? Ah yes, skin prints that were found at the scene. Skin prints, counsel? I've never heard of such things. The Justice Ministry is currently assessing whether or not to permit fingerprints as evidence in court, however. My lord, this is an exciting new forensic technique developed by the great detective Mr. Sherlock Holmes. It reveals all of the places that Mr. Shakespeare touched in his room. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, that's black magic, isn't it? Well, if anyone could invent something like this, it's that Grey Holmes fellow, that's for sure. I agree. This month's edition of Engineering Thumbs was quite fascinating. We found skin prints in many places that you would expect on a table, on the costumes. However, Mr. Shakespeare also appears to have been touching some very unexpected places in his room. For example, here. Around the hanging picture there, indeed, multiple handprints appear to be visible. Well, I wonder, could he have been appreciating the artwork, perhaps? At first, my colleagues and I thought the same. However, imagine standing with your hands where those prints are, and you would find yourself directly in front of... I don't believe it. The gas lamp. Though the reason why it isn't immediately obvious, it's clear that Mr. Shakespeare has regularly been standing with his hands to the wall in front of that lamp. Right, what have you been up to, you nut? I would ask the court to recall juror number 4's earlier statement. Me? What did I say? You said that blowing into a gas pipe would make the lights in the entire building flicker. And now, if you will recall juror number 3's statement... What, me now? When the gas worker who visited his home blew with too much force into the pipe, it caused all the lights and the gas stove to go out, and gas to start leaking into the rooms. Obviously, that incident was an accident. However, the simple fact is, if Mr. Shakespeare were to have blown hard into the gas pipe here in his room, he could have extinguished every other light and gas stove in the building at will. Oh, mir fällt auch gerade ein, Mr. Natsume hat doch gesagt, dass fast jeden Abend oder jede Nacht dringt Gas in seinen Raum ein. Oder? Ich glaube, er hatte doch irgendwie sowas erwähnt. Trickery. Or are you suggesting that the man purposefully caused the gas too? Whilst I acknowledge that the prosecution is required to remain silent during a summation examination, I must toast my learned friends utter disregard for the letter of the law. What is the meaning of this, Lord von Zieks? This curious photograph, or whatever it is, presented by the defense, the so-called skin prints, clearly that cannot be accepted as any form of usable evidence in this case. But it's an exciting new forensic technique developed by a great detective. It's nothing. A mere toy developed by an amateur sleuth with too much time on his hands. Certainly, even research of this nature by the esteemed Mr. Sholmes cannot be recognized by the court as formal evidence. But... Please, my lord, if I may. Miss Susato. It was not the defense intention to submit the skin prints as formal evidence. He merely wished to present the results of the great detective's investigation of the scene as a tool by which to explain a possibility to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury. And if the trial were to come to an end now, we should never learn the truth behind these mysterious handprints that everyone has now seen. I don't believe we can allow that to happen, and I'm sure the jurors would agree. Smart. You're right. Whether those strange handprints are a significant clue or not, it's down to us to decide. Juror number 3. Oh yes, I do declare the great detective's investigation results sound absolutely fascinating, and I want to hear what that shady actor fellow has to say about those shady handprints. Okay, auch noch 2. Ja, das war sehr, sehr schlau von Susato formuliert. What's the matter with you two? That was foolhardy. Well, I did say it, didn't I? And I don't like to break a promise. No, wait, you heard his lordship. It's not fair, drink him. Oh, well done, Mr. Naruhodo. If just one more juror changes his or her mind, Mr. Natsume's trial will have to continue. Thank you, Mr. Susato, but I couldn't have done it without you. Oh no, it was you who identified the clue after all. This is very much your success. Why, Mr. Shakespeare, you seem to be losing your composure. Just one more juror, Mr. Naruhodo. You can do it. Very well, continue, counsel. Okay, also ich habe jetzt noch Juror Nummer 1, Nummer 4 und Nummer 5. Keine Ahnung, ich muss wieder von vorne anfangen. All the evidence you say? That's right, and there's no room for doubt. It's all pointing at the Japanese man with the big mustache, says the Englishman with the bigger mustache. But the defense just demonstrated another possible explanation for the events on the night in question. What do you make of that? What, your so-called skin prints? It's an exciting new forensic investigation technique developed by the great detective himself. The numerous handprints on the wall are clearly out of the ordinary. And if Mr. Shakespeare had indeed put his mouth to the gas pipe on the night in question, it can't be denied that there's a possibility that's where the poison was. Well, yes, I won't deny that it's playing on my mind. But as the prosecution rightly says, we should pay no heed to unacceptable forms of evidence. And besides, yes, even if the fellow has been up to some mischief with the gas pipe dozens of times before, it doesn't mean he got up to the same shenanigans on the night in question, does it? If you can't make your case better than that, I'm afraid I can change my stance. You do make a very valid point, sir. Oh, oops. That's true. Perhaps I was a little hasty. No, wait. Look, you've got your chance here, haven't you? So it's time to prove your theory. If you and your Japanese cohorts can, that is. Just leave our nationality out of this, please. Mr. Naruhodo, if we can't substantiate our position, I'm afraid the jurors that changed their minds before may very well change them back. What can I do? Is there any more proof I can give there? Can I show that Mr. Shamespeare really did blow down the gas pipe on the night in question? I can't prove it. I can't present evidence. I have supporting testimony. I have supporting. Can I show that Mr. Shamespeare really did blow down the gas pipe on the night in question? Also ich habe dafür keinen Beweis, auf gar keinen Fall. Also eigentlich, I have supporting testimony. No, in truth, I don't have evidence to support my theory. However, there is witness testimony that substantiates it. What's that? Testimony? This is incredible. Whose testimony? Yes, it's all connected. Everything is linked. A person whose testimony revealed details about the gas in the Gary Depp residence that night, namely... Ah, dann muss das Mr. Natsume sein, das, was ich vorher angesprochen habe, wo er gesagt hat, dass immer in der Nacht Gas in seinen Raum strömt. Obviously, I'm talking about the defendant, Mr. Soseki Natsume himself. The defendant? At the very beginning of the proceedings here in court yesterday, Mr. Natsume said the following. My lodgings. There's been a whole series of strange happenings in my lodgings. Even on that fateful night it happened, when I returned from Mr. Shamespeare's room, I lit my gas stove and climbed into bed, but before long, the stove went out, and somebody tried to kill me. On the night in question, the gas in the defendant's room went out, so I asked the court, was that a mere coincidence or not? Good golly. So, that Shamespeare fellow blew air into the gas pipe to make the man's stove go out on purpose? Now hold your horses there. What would he do that for? Mr. Foreman, what is it, man? We cannot allow judgment to be passed whilst this doubt remains. It's true that I don't have conclusive evidence yet, however, you must surely agree there's more to this case than meets the eye. Fair enough. Like I said at the outset, I'm a man of logic, first and foremost. That's 4 jurors leaning towards not guilty, my lord. We've overturned this decision. Therefore, the defense calls for the trial to continue. As the defense has rightfully indicated, the summation examination has concluded with a majority of jurors altering their decisions. 2 jury members now call guilty, 4 now call not guilty. Therefore, the jury's opinion is conflicted, and in accordance with the law of this land, I hereby order the continuation of this trial. Mr. William Shamespeare, my lord, how can thy humble Shamespeare serve thee? What say you in response to the various revelations made during the summation examination? So God meant me, I do solemnly swear, I recall aught of either the lamp or the pipe. But your handprints have made a tidy mess all over the boulder. How do you explain that, huh? I am done with this. The dignity of this great courtroom has been sullied enough already. Juror number 5. Who, me? As I went to some pains to point out already, a print from the self-professed detective's toy has no place in a British court of law. As such, whether or not this man did indeed stand before the gas lamp with his hands against the wall remains at this time unestablished conjecture. You would all do well to remember that. But the prosecution must concede that it would be extremely simple to verify. Just order the mouth of the gas pipe feeding that lamp in Mr. Shamespeare's room to be examined. If there are traces of poison there... What appears to be extremely simple is my Nipponese friend's mind. You will recall that in order to check for the presence of poison in the tea, some remnants of tea were required. Yes. Therefore, it shouldn't be beyond our wit to imagine that even if poison were to have been spread on the pipe, it would have completely evaporated by now, making any analysis impossible. I butchered that word again. I didn't think of that. In any case, Counsel, I fail to see what could possibly have motivated the man to do as you describe. Why on earth would this fellow have wanted to blow air into the gas pipework where he lived? There's only one possibility that I can think of, and that is to use the leaking gas to commit murder. Ich meine, ich kann mir vorstellen, dass er Mr. Natsume aus der Wohnung haben wollte, weil er wollte ja unbedingt diese Unterkunft eigentlich haben. Mr. Garrett hatte gesagt, die Unterkunft ist schon vergeben. Also ich kann mir eben sehr gut vorstellen, dass das mit diesem Verbrecher auch zu tun hatte. Und vielleicht befindet sich ja noch etwas in dem Raum, das er holen muss oder das er finden muss. Precisely. Whose life do you propose this man was plotting to end? The answer couldn't be simpler. Now we've unraveled the mystery this far. Mr. Shakespeare wanted to end the life of Mr. Natsume. If a gas lamp were to go out, it would be noticed immediately, of course. But a gas stove, on the other hand, could be silently extinguished by the killer without anyone noticing. I live around those parts myself, so I know what it's like. I can tell you, trying to sleep without the stove lit is pretty much suicide. You would freeze to death in no time. Mr. Garridab, the landlord has a large fireplace in his part of the residence on the top floor. In other words, it wasn't the landlord, but a fellow lodger whose life Mr. Shakespeare was trying to end. I'm talking, of course, about the defendant. Mr. Natsume isn't the villain in this case. He's the victim this man was trying to murder. The accused is actually the aggrieved. Interesting. However, the fundamental facts of the case remain unchanged. Namely, that the accused is the aggressor here. What? How can you still claim that? Let us indulge your fancies for a moment and assume that there was indeed poison on the mouth of the gas pipe. The question that then arises is who put it there? Who did put it there? The only logical conclusion is that the person responsible was aware of this man's trickery with the gas supply and his intent to kill. Yes, that would indeed seem logical. If this assailant were unaware, how would he or she have known to lace the end of the gas pipe with poison? So now we must ask, how could anyone have known of Mr. Shakespeare's murderous designs? You mean to suggest... Naturally, the sole possible answer to that question couldn't be more obvious. Only the man whose life was being threatened could possibly have known. In other words, the person who put the poison on a gas pipe and what was a clear retaliatory attack can only have been the accused, Mr. Saseki Natsume. Whatever Mr. William Shakespeare may or may not have contrived to do, he was nevertheless the victim of a potential lethal poison attack. And the only person who could possibly have perpetrated that attack is the accused, Mr. Natsume. The defense counsel's theorizing has failed to avert suspicion from the accused, far from it. In fact, now that a clear motive for the poisoning has been successfully established, that suspicion is greater than ever. Would you not agree, my Nipponese friend? How did he manage to turn that around on me so rapidly? Mr. Naruhodo, you must respond. Otherwise, the members of the jury may very well change their leanings against us again. And this may be our last chance to gain the advantage. What advantage? Well, it would seem that somebody put poison on the gas pipe in Mr. Shamspeare's room. So we must name that person now and absolve Mr. Natsume of guilt. You mean, name the true culprit? I know it might sound impossible, but if we fail to do that, I have no doubt that Mr. Natsume's fate will be sealed once and for all. As it happens, one possible culprit does come to mind. The evidence, the poison, it's all pointing to a particular person now. The prosecution calls for the jury to consider their leanings again. I trust you will make the correct choice this time, Mr. Foreman. Oh, don't you worry, we know. There is one other person who I believe could have been involved in all of this. The true culprit of this crime. A term found only in second-rate novels featuring third-rate great detectives, my Nipponese friend. But why not? This farce has gone on for so long already, I see no reason to cut it short before its disappointing climax. Thank you. Tell us, my learned Nipponese friend, what is your latest theory? Who is the so-called true culprit of this crime? Olive Green. Weil sie hat ihren Verlobten verloren. Und ich glaube, dass die Shamspeare dafür die Schuld gibt. Oder dass er vielleicht sogar der Mörder war. Irgendwie, also, die sind auf jeden Fall irgendwie miteinander verbunden. The name of the person responsible for the poison that afflicted Mr. Shamspeare is, I believe, Miss Olive Green. I do feel as though I've heard that name in the recent past, Counsel, but I don't recall where. Miss Olive Green, the woman from 6 days ago. The victim in the recent case of stabbing on Briar Road, an incident for which Mr. Natsume was arrested, I hasten to add. Oh, of course, yes, Miss Green. She was left comatose for some 3 days, I believe, but I hear she regained consciousness 2 days ago. And I hardly need remind the court that Mr. Shamspeare's poisoning took place 3 days ago. Given that the woman was laying comatose in a hospital bed at the time, she appears to have a rather fine alibi. True. On the night that the incident occurred, Miss Green was in hospital, unconscious. So, on the face of it, it would seem that she couldn't possibly be responsible, but still. My colleagues and I visited Miss Green in hospital yesterday, and we found her to be in possession of a bottle of poison. And there is another fact that links Miss Green to this case as well. The defense requests that she be brought to the witness stand in order to explain the details to the court. Tell me, Mr. Shamspeare. My lord, pray, what be thy bidding? Are you acquainted with Miss Green? No, never heard of her. Judging by the look on Mr. Shamspeare's face, I think perhaps he genuinely doesn't know her, at least not by name. As the voice of Her Majesty prosecution here, I adhere to my word. We will see my learned Nipponese friend's farce through to its conclusion. I appreciate that. The prosecution requests a short recess, my lord, in order to subpoena the witness and bring her here. Yes, Miss Olive Green. Indeed, my lord. 1 hour should be sufficient. Very well, I grant the request. Excellent, I hope. The defense has made a most extraordinary accusation, I must say, but at the present time I feel the prosecution's argument remains largely uncontested. Accordingly, I'm afraid the defendant and his culpability remain the sole subject of this court's attention. Thank you, counsels. We reconvene in 1 hour. Court is adjourned. To be continued. Ja, okay, wir dürfen also im nächsten Part endlich Olive Green hören, was sie zu sagen hat. Und ich bin jetzt mal gespannt, wie das alles miteinander zusammenhängt. Also der der Fall von vor 3 Monaten, dann, das mit ihrem Verlobten, dann was ist Shakespeare jetzt eigentlich hier ähm, für eine zwielichtige Gestalt? Also, was ist sein Ziel? Was sind seine Pläne? Wer ist er vielleicht wirklich? Da bin ich jetzt mal gespannt, was dabei noch rauskommen wird. Aber wie gesagt, hier gibt es jetzt erstmal einen Cut. Ich bedanke mich ganz herzlich fürs Zusehen. Hoffe, ihr hattet Spaß. Und wenn ihr mögt, sehen wir uns sehr, sehr gerne im nächsten Part wieder. Bis dahin. Ciao.